everyone. Welcome to the Portfolio. When we think about Korean food, there is one dish that always comes to mind. Kevin, do you know what it is?
Kimchi, of course.
Yes, kimchi. It is the one dish that we Koreans cannot live without.
And Health Magazine named kimchi one of the top 5 healthiest foods on this planet.
Yes, kimchi is rich in vitamins, it aids digestion, and some claim that it even reduces cancer growth.
Sojung, I'm so thankful that our smart ancestors invented such a delicious and nutritious food.
Indeed. And kimchi has become a popular item with foodies and health-conscious people. For a long time, I thought that you could only buy kimchi at Korean or Asian markets. But I was surprised to see the other day at Whole Foods 2 kimchi brands.
At Whole Foods, really?
Yes, there are second-generation Korean Americans who are running successful kimchi businesses. We met with 2 of them to learn about their careers and personal histories.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you 2 young entrepreneurs in the kimchi industry, Ms. Lauryn Chun and Mr. Kheedim Oh.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Portfolio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, let's get right into our talk today. I understand that before you created this company, this kimchi company, you were into wine.
Yeah. I mean, I studied wine for a long time and then worked for a wine magazine, wine and spirits magazine, and worked for a wine importer, and then even went off to Italy to work on a wine harvest. So very, very passionate about wines.
I see. So you must know a lot about wine and kimchi pairing then.
Well, yeah, it was not the first thing on my mind, but turns out that the more I started to really have an understanding about kimchi, and as I launched the business, I really found such similar parallels with wine and kimchi. I recently actually did a really interesting tasting at Wine and Spirits magazine, and we thought about pairing a red wine with kimchi, and that turned out to be really, really interesting. So I know it sounds extremely crazy, because at first I think when my friend who's the editor there, mentioned that we would be pairing the red wine with kimchi, I thought, that's crazy. Why would you ever want to do that? But it actually turned out to be a really interesting thing, and something that we did at the Korea Society as well to launch the kimchi cookbook. So we did a whole wine pairing, and it was 2 white wines and 1 red wine, and people just really, really loved it.
This kimchi was really well seasoned, and I think it,
So which part
sweetness of the
did you
sparkling
depart
wine
from China?
went really well.
Usually with sake. Not with wine, but it's very good pairing now. She did the winner very good.
So after being in the wine business for a while, you transitioned into kimchi. How did that happen?
It really just kind of, I'd always wanted to do something for myself in terms of starting my own business, and I think my mom was a huge inspiration. When I lost my job in 2008 with the recession, and it was a marketing position, I just said, okay, this is really the right time for me to try and do something. And I had this kimchi that my mom would pack like any good Korean mother would in my luggage every time I'd go visit her in California. Yes. In 2009 I launched Mother-in-Law's Kimchi at the Pickle Day in the Lower East Side.
You had a Kimjang event at the New Amsterdam Market last December.
Right.
How was that?
Oh, that was so much fun. It's been a small dream of mine to really have the idea of people really engaging in this, this kimjang, which is such a traditional event, and for me, one of the fondest memories about kimchi.
It's not hard, but of course a lot of the hard work was done for us. We didn't have to brine the cabbage, we didn't have to make the mixture, but it's a little messy, but it's not hard.
I like kimchi. I wanted to learn how to make it and learn some of the culture and history behind it.
How was it?
It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. I used to when I was a baby, but I don't eat it as much now. I'll try it.
I mean, a lot of children, Korean American children, have a hard time eating kimchi. And so I'm always feeding it to my own children and hoping that one day they'll really take to it. One has, the other two have not yet.
Right.
But I keep hoping because it is such a healthy, delicious food.
Right.
And it's part of their heritage, and I hope that they'll like it. So I'm always curious to know what other people's experiences have been.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be open to it. And I mean, I was exactly like the same way. I thought, oh, that kimchi is so embarrassing. It's smelly, it's stinky. It's like, why is this ruining our Thanksgiving dinner? Why is it on my hot dog? Like, why is it showing up everywhere? Yes. So I think that it was a very, very ambivalent relationship with it. Mm-hmm. But like anything, you know, once you have, I think, experienced, you know, have created your own experience, you can kind of come back to it in your own terms and then find, you know, your own definition of it, and I think that's when it's the most rewarding, because mm-hmm. then you really know, you come full circle of who you are and, you know, where you come from.
Yes, right. I remember my mother always washing the kimchi for me. And
yeah.
I think a lot of people our generation have experienced that.
Yeah.
Really growing to love kimchi after it's been washed and slowly getting spicier and spicier as we age.
And the analogy that I have to that is when I learned that when you're in France and you're a little kid, they take a little bit of wine and they dilute it with water, and that's how children, you know, kind of have wine with their meal, because it's part of this sort of fermented flavor that is part of the meal. That, you know, in Europe, wine is considered a produce. It's considered something that is part of the meal, not as something that is an alcohol.
Mother-in-law kimchi has received rave reviews in the press. You were in the Daily News Holiday Gift Guide, listed as one of the top gifts. You were also featured on a program on MSNBC. You've been featured in the New York Times, Oprah Magazine, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Rachel Ray, etc., etc. How has that been for you?
I've just become the official kimchi ambassador unknowingly, but yeah. It's been incredible. I mean, I really think that the opportunity to really share the story of kimchi is something that, as culturally, I mean, there's probably no other food. I can't imagine any other country that has the identity of a single topic, like one food that, you know, that the nation and the culture is identified, like kimchi. So even, I think, starting out, and when I wanted to write a cookbook about kimchi, because there was so much confusion amongst so many customers I met about what it is that, you know, what is kimchi, and they really think it's only one thing, and it's cabbage. And so it really became my mission, and just, you know, the more I delved into it, you know, I just found so much pride and a sense of identity with, you know, kimchi and what that means to be Korean and what that means, you know, for our history. But just like anything, and I think researching for the book, you know, doing the same sort of the chili pepper flakes and the garlic and ginger and the, you know, and the protein components. People get excited when I do the kimchi cookbook talks, and they show, I just did one for the Flushing Library, and, you know, 50 people that really don't know much about kimchi but want to learn more about it. And it's just really, you know, those are the moments when I just feel like what I'm doing is really worthwhile.
Mama, she comes on when we cooking up the kimchi. Cabbage in a pot, cabbage in a pot, cabbage in a pot. Gotta make it extra spicy. Chili make it hot, chili make it hot, chili make it hot.
Hey Kheedim, how are you?
I'm great, Kevin. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for coming on our show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I heard you were a DJ, or you are still a DJ, and you've been doing this for 20 years?
Almost 20 years, yeah. I've been DJing for a long time.
And how did you first get into the DJ business?
I first got into DJing when I went to college. I was into records, vinyl records. And what I was really into was a lot of music from the 70s. Okay. And obviously that's when they made the most records. and hip hop samples a lot of records from the 70s, and so I was just getting more deeper and deeper into that.
Well, and you've performed all around Europe, the United
Yeah.
States, and your music's been on many TV shows as well.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that we've been able to license our songs out to a lot of shows like Entourage, Glee.
Kardashians.
Yeah,
too?
Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's funny. I think that's going to be might be a future Trivial Pursuit question because they've actually used our songs in all of the Kardashian shows and all the spin-offs.
That's incredible. You've had this successful career, and then you go into the kimchi business. Now, how did that come about?
I didn't go into the kimchi business to go into the kimchi business. I started learning how to make kimchi because I wanted it for myself. And the problem is, when I started back in 2008, all the available kimchi that was commercially made was kind of gross or syrupy, full of MSG or all of the above. So I wanted some for myself. So I asked my mom to teach me how to make it. And my mom, she lives in Maryland, so it's too far to just...
And you were living in New York at the time?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so it's too far to just go there every time you want kimchi. So I asked her to teach me how to make it. So what I would do is I'd take the Chinatown bus down to Maryland, and I'd fill up, I'd make a batch of kimchi, which is one of those 50-pound boxes, and I'd bring it back in this red igloo cooler. And it's too much for one person to eat at a time. So I'd give it out to my friends, and they'd all say, "Oh, this is great. You should start selling it." And I thought that was I was like, "Yeah, it's a good idea." But nothing came about until it was a chance meeting with my butcher. I go to Jeffrey's in Essex Market.
And is he Korean American?
No, he's a 50-year-old Jewish guy with a ponytail. Okay. And I was buying some ribs to make kalbi, and he's like, "Oh, you eat that with some kimchi and rice, eating like a king." And I'm like, "Who are you telling?" So I was like, "You like kimchi?" He's like, "Yeah, I love it." I was like, "Oh, cool, I make this stuff, I'll bring some by." And so I brought some by, I checked up on it a week later. I was like, "What'd you think?" He was like, "Oh, I love it." And so I replied, "I sell this stuff." I didn't. Wow. And so then after that he said, "I want to start carrying it." And that's when Mama O's was born.
So now, is that recipe something that's a family secret that's been passed down for generations, or is it something that your mom created and has handed over to you?
It came from my grandmother, but also as time goes on, you add things to it. And so my mom took the recipe and modified it. One way is that instead of using minari, the parsley that's used to make kimchi, she tried using cilantro. I really like cilantro in it as well, and it kind of gives food a lift, freshens things up. When my mom makes it, it's old school Korean hand measures, like 3 handfuls of this, taste it, and I couldn't do that because I'm trying to make a consistent product. So from the sessions that I went down to Maryland learning how to make kimchi, we came up with the standard recipe.
아니 이 어려운 거를 여자들도 요새는 다 김치도 안 만드는 세상인데 이 어려운 걸 왜 배우려고 그러나 그런 생각이 들었어요. 미국 사람들은 자기네들이 만들 생각은 안 하고 자기네가 마마오즈 김치 사서 먹었다고 그러면서 당신 사진이 우리 집 키친에도 있고 리빙룸에도 있고 뭐 그렇다고 그래서 그런 말을 들을 때는 참 기쁘죠.
Do you ever feel like there's a stigma for a guy making kimchi?
Right, well, there's the superstition that if a guy goes and makes kimchi, a part of his body is going to fall off.
Oh, really?
But so far it hasn't happened yet, so that's good.
That's a good thing.
But I didn't really even think about it that much because I think also in America, the stigma is not even really there.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think justifies or separates out Mama O's kitchen from any other kimchi brand?
Besides just making regular Napa kimchi, we also make a vegan version, which is it's called kosher because there's no fish or shellfish, but it's kosher because we can't afford a rabbi. Also, what we try and do is expand kimchi and like how it's eaten and perceived. So I like using different vegetables, so I make a baby bok choy kimchi. It's kind of marrying like a Chinese vegetable with the Korean fermentation technique. Sometimes when people eat my kimchi, they're like, oh, it's not that spicy. And I'm like, well, kimchi never really gets that spicy. There's 매운 kimchi. And so I also decided to make a super spicy kimchi made with the ghost pepper, which is the world's spiciest pepper.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Have to have a lot of water standing by, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, I temper it. I make it, I don't make it outlandish because I had a kimchi eating contest where the contestants ate as much kimchi as they could in 3 minutes.
5, 4, 3, 2,
and I didn't want anyone to die or sue me.
Right.
So
you gotta limit it at a certain point.
Yeah, so I didn't make it too hot. I made it hot. But I wanted to make it palatable and enjoyable.
And it's all made in here?
Yeah,
Right
here, Brooklyn, New York. So this is my kosher kimchi.
Yeah, it's definitely without the same kind of kick that I'm used to.
Baby bok choy.
Yeah, this is your personal favorite here, right? It's great.
I really love the bok choy because the vegetable itself is like, it's kind of more fibrous and has a great taste too.
Korean rice cake is delicious and nutritious. It can be great for a simple breakfast like a bagel or a dessert like cake, but I don't think it's quite popular with Americans yet. Sojung, why do you think that is?
Yes, I've heard that some Americans find the sticky texture of rice cake strange and unpleasant. Some even say that it's too chewy and that they're afraid to swallow it.
Kind of like chewing gum?
Yeah, maybe. However, there are 2 young men who have succeeded in reinventing the Korean rice cake into a fashionable dessert item. I went to their kitchen to take a peek. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Besfren. All right. This is a great space. I love this kitchen.
This is the kitchen of our friend's karaoke that we're renting because currently the kitchen is not being used right now, so he let us use it and make our desserts here.
Oh, what a great friend.
I know.
Yes.
And the cream. So we make the cream with yuza preserve. It goes as a macaron size.
Wow, thank you so much. How exciting. Oh my gosh, let's see. Wow. This is incredible.
We got inspired by our moms baked oven-baked rice cakes. We worked with various types of ingredients, try to pair them up and see how they taste together.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Oh, I really like this a lot. Crunchy and chewy. And even on the bottom, there's a nice crisp layer there. Hi guys, welcome to the portfolio.
Thank you for having us. We're so happy to be on your show.
Oh, we're delighted you're here. So tell me, what is Besfren?
Well, Besfren is a modern Korean dessert brand which we specially handcraft rice cake with fun and creative flavors. And it's also gluten-free, so it's a healthy way to enjoy desserts.
And how long has Besfren been around?
We started working together since spring of 2011, from studying the traditional way of making rice cake to developing a new texture and the flavor that Americans will like. And we started the business since March of 2012, so we've been around close to a year now.
I'm curious to know how you started your business. Min, let's start with you. Tell me about your background.
So many people have been asking that question, and it's funny that neither of us has background in cuisine nor desserts. So I worked in the accounting field for 10 years.
Accounting, I see. Paul, how about you?
I studied fine art in Korea and came to New York 5 years ago to find something related to my major.
Interesting. So we have an accountant and an artist. How did you meet?
We met through a mutual friend about 3 years ago, and we began talking and found out a lot of things that we had in common and same interest. And we were at the same stage where we both had worked in our own study field for 10 years, and we're really bored of what we've been doing and wanted to start something that's creative and enjoyable to do. So that's how we decided to create a business together.
But you have no culinary background at all.
No, not at all.
Wow. So how did you decide to get into the rice cake business?
One day we were watching a Korean TV program called 무한도전, and on that particular episode they had a challenge to introduce Korean traditional place in the street in New York for the New Yorkers. So they got the result as rice cakes be hard to globalize because of its own texture, that they found it as weird and
strange.
Sticky, chewy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that when we saw that, we realized that's a challenge that we should meet, and wanted to develop a rice cake that everyone will love and enjoy.
Besfren has been around for nearly a year now, and you've received tremendous amounts of media attention. You've been featured in a KBS program. You've catered to highly fashionable events in New York City. How come we can't find Besfren in the market?
Well, our initial goal was to come up with new products and bring them out to the market, but as we participated in various cultural events in fashion, art, music, and film, we realized not only our sweet little desserts could satisfy people's palates, but it forms a great story to our brand and delivers sweet spirits to people. So we're planning on continuing to focus on catering business as well as expanding to supply to high-end fine restaurants and hotels.
What are your plans moving forward?
We want to reach out to many people as possible through our website and Facebook page.
And we want to be part of innovators representing modern Korean culture in America.
Wonderful. Well, you are definitely innovators in Korean rice cake dessert. I wish you the best and tremendous success.
His idea was to put Korean barbecue in a taco, and for me, I grew up here in LA, so the street taco has been a part of my life.
It's a little different from other trucks. It has a different flavor, different ingredients. It's just something that you can't really get anywhere else.
I've had a passion for Korean cuisine since I was a kid, so I've just finding out that they actually have a place that it's accessible, wherever you are. It's a great experience.
Because Korean food is really, really naturally delicious and healthy, so we want to kind of bring that out to a forefront. So we've got 6 different types of namul. We're going out there every single day on the streets of New York City, spreading the word about Korean food. We want to be worldwide.